Welcome to the season opener for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and we are here for the first time at the famous Mid-Ohio Raceway. It's earned its reputation in sports car folklore for good reason. Long, fast straights, hard-braking zones, elevation changes, makes for great overtaking and fantastic racing. The fans come in huge numbers. They've come for decades, but never before have they seen two races like this.
Nestled about halfway in between Cleveland and Columbus is quaint Lexington, Ohio, home to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. A favorite track of many car lovers across the U.S., this weekend it is host to the Running of the Bulls and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Hi everyone, I'm Shay Adam of IMSA Radio, and we have a real treat on our hands as 16 Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos line up for Race 1. Taking you through the race will be Jeremy Shaw, Brian Sellers, and John Hindhaugh, with Justin Bell for interviews in the pits. The weather has been changing all weekend. Rain for the first couple of sessions, but it's nice for now. 68 degrees with plenty of cloud cover and a little bit of wind coming from the south. For the first time, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America comes to Mid-Ohio. And where exactly is that, you might be asking? Well, it's nestled at the foot of Lake Erie. We're about halfway between Indiana and Pennsylvania, so it is right in the middle. This 13-turn, 2.25-mile course will give great passing opportunity at the keyhole and the carousel, which is the last corner, as well as turn 4 at the end of the longest straight. The engines have fired and the cars are rolling. 4 classes means 4 podiums. But how do you tell the difference between the different machines? Well, all the cars are the same. It's the drivers that makes the difference in this series. And one good way to tell what class they're in is the color of the windshield banner in the top left corner. Running this weekend, we have Pro, Pro-Am, Am, and LB Cup. But before we get to that, let's go for a lap of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and who better than Brian Sellers?
Here we are at a lap at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. As we come down the front straightaway, we approach turn 1, which is a high-speed 4th gear left-hander. Light brake, trying to roll as much speed into the corner as we can, trying to get back to full throttle nice and early for our shot up to the keyhole. The keyhole, one of the most famous corners on the track, with the heavy braking uphill on the entry from 5th gear down to 2nd, making our focus the exit shot onto the long back straightaway. Very important here to get to full throttle in 2nd gear nice and early to create a passing opportunity as we head down the back straightaway towards turn 4. We're going to be looking for the 300 marker for the brakes, down from 6th to 3rd gear, trailing the brake into the corner, releasing the brake and trying to carry as much speed across the apex as we can. Down to 2nd gear for turn 5, up the hill and then back down the other side as we do a light brake and carry the speed for turn 6. This is one of the most difficult sections of the track, 7, 8, and 9, trying to keep the car balanced and staying as close to full throttle as possible. Light brake for turn 9 as we climb the hill, and then difficult to put the power down over the crest. As we approach turn 11, the second fastest corner on the track, leave it in 4th, a light brake, carry the entry speed in, and just use all the road on the exit, braking from 4th down to 2nd for our carousel, looking once again for an exit shot out as we head on to the front straightaway. And that's a lap at Mid-Ohio. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Brian, not only for the description, but for the view as well. It's the very same that will be shown to our 16 cars starting their warm-up lap now, although I suspect they'll have to contend with a bit more traffic than Brian had on that lap. Green flag is only minutes away. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for sticking with us, ladies and gents. The pace car has pulled into the pits, and we are about to get going for round 1 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America from Mid-Ohio. As the drivers start to get themselves into formation, let's find out who starts where. Our pole sitter is Laura Spinelli in the number 71, and alongside him is Jonathan Cicotto in car number 1. Watch out for Madison Snow starting the 29 white Lamborghini from row 2, though, because that guy is always fast. Our AM pole sitter is Ryan Hardwick in the number 2 and on the outside of row 3. And our LB Cup leader will be that number 88 machine of Mark Proto and Paris Mullins. Starting on row 6, rounding out the field, Randy Solari, starting in the 10, but he'll hand over to Stephen McAleer, a very quick driver who could factor at the end of the race. Now to take you through, I'll hand it off to my IMSA Radio co-commentator, John Hindhoff. John?
The pole man then, Spinelli, sitting on the inside in that green Lamborghini, just easing in to Trent Hinman, and Trent won't be taking too much of that, I'll tell you. The safety car has gone, so it is the 71 green car on the left of our picture. Driver's right coming down. Hinman slightly ahead of him, and now he hits the go pedal. That's not the cleanest of starts. Will it be waved off? It is a green flag in the air, so we are racing and coming through from further back. Madison Snow and Eduardo Piscopo coming through, but Spinelli there playing the part of the safety car and slowing everyone down. And I'm hearing already from race control, Jeremy, the start is under review.
Well, so it should be, because the drivers are told very clearly in the drivers' meeting that you have to maintain safety car speed before the green flag. That he clearly did not do. He just, and then he was supposed to accelerate initially smoothly, not just jump on the throttle like he did there and steal a march on the rest of the field. It's kind of European racing there, but that's not the way it's done over here. And the rules are very specific, Brian Sellers.
And it is a very difficult place to start a race, seeing as the start finish is actually in a different place. However, you are given strict instructions on what to do, and you saw games played early, so maybe Loris was ready to go and took too much of advantage of that situation.
We'll let you know immediately we have the answer. The first lap is in the books. Of course, it's only really 3/4 of a green flag lap. Coming to the line here, Brian. Loris on the pole position. Actually, Trent's ahead at this point because Loris is going so slowly.
Yeah, you can see Loris he doesn't accelerate gradually, as Jeremy said. It's a quick takeoff, and unfortunately it catches Trent out, but you should be a long gradual acceleration to give the field a chance to stay bunched up and leave together.
I gave Madison Snow, who was in behind the pole man. I think Madison had an idea of what was going to happen and got on the loud pedal quite early. Gave him the advantage down into turn 4 in second place. Eduardo Piscopo pulled out to his right as well and came down the inside. He's in 4th position now.
The start has been reviewed and no action there from race
I think
control.
He's lucky.
Yeah, very, very lucky. I mean, why therefore have the meeting in the first place? But anyhow, that has been the call, and Loris Spinelli has a really good lead out in front, and he will intend to maintain that advantage or even extend it.
And I think from what we've seen in qualifying, he has the ability to open a gap right now.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you look back at the start and say, was that a risk that was really necessary, knowing you have a car that was fast enough? But, you know, these guys are trying in a sprint race to open gaps and be as fast as they can, as long as they can.
Yeah, and if the start had been waved off, they would have just come round and restarted. But it was given the green flag, and the chance that Spinelli was taking there, or Spinelli was possibly getting penalised and having to come down through the pit lane, and that would have been a real disadvantage. That hasn't happened, so let's forget about it. 46 minutes still to run, and Madison Snow in second position in that number 29 car, which is linked. All of these cars are linked with dealers around the country, and it's the Lamborghini of the Carolinas dealer that supports Madison Snow. Corey Lewis will be getting into that Change Racing Lamborghini once the pit lane window opens. It's a 10-minute window in the middle of the race, mandatory pit stop, and it's a mandatory pit stop time as well, so you don't have to rush. And that, Brian, is because there's drivers in here who aren't pros, and you don't want to be trying to get out with belts all over the place and that sort. That's for safety, and I completely agree with that at this level of racing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there's a time and a place to have fast driver changes, and this probably isn't the one. You want the guys to be able to be calm, cool, relaxed, and have everything done by the time they get in there. And it's still fast enough that it's not easy to get done.
Well, these cars are quick. These are as quick, if not quicker, than your GT Daytona car, pulling through the trap speed, certainly 163, 164 miles an hour. That's very quick indeed.
It's extremely fast, and I think the whole thing about the Lamborghini program is moving you from the ST car into the GT3 car. And a lot of these guys I've actually run with in the GT3 car. And let me tell you, if they can drive the ST car fast, they come into the GT car and exactly the same thing.
Spinetti pulling out the lead now, 2 seconds, and a 1:22.2 last time around is the fastest lap of the race. He's not hanging about, well over 160 miles an hour for the second place driver Madison Snow through the speed trap. 164, let's call it. In fact, it is 164 this time around. That is hauling the mail. Then it's Trent Hinman in the #1 Lamborghini, then Eduardo Piscopo, and then Karol Baz, the Polish driver. Not a lot known about Karol before he popped up in this, and we've done a bit of research on him, and he's got a decent pedigree behind him over in Europe, mostly doing karting. Quite a young driver, has been a works driver in karting and earned some money out of it. And you don't do that, Jeremy, if you're not any good.
No, that's right. I mean, he's 26 years of age, so he's stayed in karting quite a relatively long period of time for somebody who's clearly that good. But certainly he's impressed this team, and he also won one of the races in Europe in the first round of the European Championship in Monza. He was running there in the pro category and won one of those races, so he's already a race winner in these Lamborghini Huracan Evos.
He's also done some Italian, I think he's done some Italian GT Championship. There's a number of the guys coming into this house, and this is really the whole idea of Super Trofeo, Brian Sellers, is to well, actually I might have him confused with one of the other guys, but the idea is that you are getting experience of running longer distance races in very powerful motor cars.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually think that he is a perfect example. I spoke with the team a little bit earlier today, and if I'm not mistaken, he started karting actually quite a bit later than most.
Correct.
And worked his way into a Tony Kart factory driver, was a world champion as early as last year, and now has done some GT Masters, and and now has worked his way into this. And so this is a stepping stone to try and get to the next place.
Spinelli pulls out another 3/10 with another fastest lap down to a 22 flat. Madison still leads the pro category, but second only to that 71 car. One or two little detailed changes this year, Jeremy's, as far as the driver lineups and the categories are concerned. We do have some singleton drivers here, but there are classes now where you must have 2 drivers for the 2018 series.
Yeah, that's right. The Pro and the Pro-Am, you have to run 2 drivers in those cars. So there'll be 2 races this weekend. We had 2 qualifying periods this morning, each of 15 minutes. And for each of the races, one driver will qualify and start that race, and the other qualifying session and race will be the driver B, let's say. So the driver A then will finish the race tomorrow.
Very, very powerful cars, and requiring a little bit of finesse, Brian Sellers, on the right pedal. And we see these cars squirming around. They're heavy, albeit the Pirelli tyres are pretty new, but they're heavy, and they're going to take a bit of driving at this time of the race.
And you can, and this is like my favorite part of the race to watch, guys, because you can see they focused a lot on the battle between Trent and Madison right now, and you can see the car differences between the two as the tires start to wear and how the drivers are adapting to it. And you can see both those cars starting to struggle a little bit on the entry to the corners and a little bit with traction. So it'd be neat to watch how this starts to unfold and how they can manage the tires and the meat part of the race.
Not a lot that you can do. It's a spec series, so you can't develop the car. It is based on a street car rather than a GT car, so there's a little more compliance, but obviously quite a lot of safety equipment that has to go in here. But there are detailed changes, tyre pressures, you can do a little bit with the suspension. So I guess, like most spec races of this length particularly, you have a decision to make whether you set the car up to be really good when it's heavy on new Pirellis, or better when the Pirellis are worn but the car is lighter.
I think in my personal opinion, the best way is always the long-term solution. It's
spinner out on the circuit, and it is the #7 that's gone around, and that is the LB Cup runner. That's Sheena Monk for Wayne Taylor Racing, supported by the Paramus dealer. Not the first person ever to have lost it, going up over the top at 9, and won't be the last, not even this weekend. A fearsome part of the circuit, Brian.
Yeah, it's difficult, and this plays exactly into what we were just talking about with experience and with tire wear, and as the race starts to progress. I would say just by looking at what we saw there, the tire's starting to wear and the traction wasn't as good as what it was early in the race. And as you come over the rise, that's one of the places where tire degradation plays a massive part. You just don't have the grip to hold the car to the track, and maybe just a little bit too heavy on the throttle.
Meantime, at the front of the field, Jeremy, another good lap from Madison Snow, and that lead, which was out over 2 seconds, now down to 1.5 seconds. As Sheena Monk did just lose, I'm guessing, a little bit too much curb on turn 8 on the inside, but did a good job of getting the car stopped without hitting anything as she went over the top of 9, and that actually isn't as easy as it sounds there. Back at the front, it's down to 1.5 seconds, Jeremy, between Spinelli and Snow. Yeah,
it's a good battle between those two. They're matching lap times last time, and Trent Hinman is staying right there as well. In fact, Trent was slightly quicker on that last lap, but actually slightly quicker than him also was Eduardo Piscopo in 4th position. And also turning some good laps is now Shinya Michimi, having found a way past Ryan Hardwick. Shinya Michimi making his return to racing after a pretty lengthy absence, turning some very good laps now in that car number 46 in 6th position.
Michimi, who was the champion 2 years ago in this series here in America, and in fact knows this part of the world very, very well indeed.
You can see the difference as you watch this battle between Madison and Trent, the strengths and the weaknesses on each portion of the track. You can really see Trent seems to be able to roll the corner speeds pretty well, but Madison seems to be able to get good exit shots, and you can see the cat and mouse game happening right now, and it looks like Trent's car is just maybe a little bit better if he can find a way around.
How much of that is driver, how much of that is set up on the cars? And again, very different, very tiny little differences in the setup.
I think, from what I see right now, I think some of it is certainly set up, and I think you can see the drivers change their lines and their approaches as the race goes on. Like, if you notice, if you watch right now, Madison is squaring the corners off a little bit more than what he was at the beginning of the race, and I suspect that's just because he doesn't have the grip that he did before, and he's just trying to make sure he can get exit shots so Trent can't get a run past him.
33.5 minutes still to go. Loris Spinelli leads in the 71 car, and he's pulling away from a quality field here. JC Perez still to get in the P1 Motorsports Browood dealer-sponsored machine. The Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo doing its job and doing it well, and the crowd has stayed on. This is the end of almost 11 hours of track action today, and the crowd wanted to see the Raging Bulls. They wanted to hear these Lamborghini V10 engines cracking the evening air here at Mid-Ohio, and they are getting plenty of entertainment.
Yeah, they do sound glorious, don't they? And they put on quite a show. I mean, these are spectacularly fast cars, as Trent Hinman there uses all of the road and a little bit more, Brad Sellers.
To me, it looks like Trent has the stronger car right now, and I know Madison's doing everything he can to hold him off, but you can just tell that Trent has a little bit over him, and right now he's thinking that this is for the pro lead. While it might not be overall, he knows if he can get his co-driver in position to chase down the car in front, that it could be for the overall victory.
That's exactly right. And also, as a former champion in this series, Trent Hinman, he's a champion in the Continental Sports Car Challenge. He won the Pro-Am category 2 years ago with Craig Jewison. He won the Pro Championship last year with Riccardo Agassini. So he knows how to win championships, and he knows you have to finish well every time out.
Into the keyhole, Madison now doing the line that I love. It doesn't look like it's the right line. It looks like he misses the first apex, the classic apex. But what he does is he takes a huge amount of speed at the middle of the corner and then takes a very late exit apex, which is why he's getting that run, that fast run down to the potential overtaking spot at turn 4, Brian. And that is smart driving by Madison.
It is, and especially given what you see right now. You can, if you pay attention, you'll notice he is not using all the road in portions like we were looking at just there in turn 5. And one of the reasons is because the traction has degraded so substantially in his car, and I think what he's trying to do is basically square the corner to get an exit shot.
Now behind him, Trent Hinman is trying really hard. When does Trent think to himself, I've got to stop this because I've got to give the car and the tyres to my teammate? in a condition that he can fight in the second half of the race.
I think at the moment, Trent is actually okay on the tire. I don't see any big slides that he's doing to try and get around Madison. I think he's being aggressive, but I think he's still being smart in his tire usage right now. I don't think that he's overusing the rear, because if you notice, you see here, I mean, he's using all the road, but no big slides out of the rear, not too aggressive with the throttle. And so I think he is planning for the future.
Okay, we're getting into the pit stop window, and we'll see who decides to go early or late to do the driver change. There'll be no fueling or servicing on the car. It is purely a driver change situation. Spinelli will get out of the Pro-Am and the overall leader and give over to JC Perez. Madison,
here we go.
oh, hello.
Here's
the battle for second place as Trent has a look around the outside, then the inside, then the outside again. He's got a car that sticks to the ground as they're coming through turn 9, and the slower car there probably just helped Madison a tiny little bit, because they both had to modify their line to driver's right.
Well, that's right. It was Sheena Monk in that number 7 car being lapped there, and she initially held up Madison Snow just a little bit, but Trent Hinman unable to take advantage there. Brian Sellers, what's going through your mind? You're in Madison Snow's position. You probably know the guy behind you, Trent Hinman, is a little bit faster. What's going through your mind?
At this stage, all you're trying to do is like manage expectations. And what I mean by that is you're not trying to overdrive your race car. Madison is smart enough at this stage in his career and won enough races to understand that he can't over push in the areas he's weak to try and make up for it. It's just not going to happen. So what he has to do is focus on exit shots out of the keyhole, focus on exit shots out of the carousel. It'd be very difficult to pass someone of Madison's caliber in the 7-8 section where Trent keeps trying.
And he's actually deliberately not trying to get to the apex in some of these tighter corners now. It looks like he's driving untidily. There's not enough room for Hinman to get down the inside. There's not quite an Huracan's width there. And what that's doing, in NASCAR terms, centre off is what he is concentrating on at the moment. And if that means he has to go around a little less tightly, means he's taking a little more momentum, and he's not scrubbing those front tyres, crucially. And what he's not doing is lighting up the rears either, although he just did over the top of 9, and for a moment he lost forward drive, and that has allowed Hinman just to close in a tiny little bit, but I don't think it's close enough. Pit window is open, by the way. We've had 3 or 4 drivers taking advantage of that, and Hinman is going to hit the pit lane. Yes, he is. And I think that's smart, because there's no point, Brian, in being stuck behind Madison any longer than he needs to be. He'll come in, hand over to Jonathan Cicotto, has proved himself very, very quick indeed, and they might just be able to get position by doing the pit stop a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's a perfect call from their position. They feel like they have a strong race car, and there's no reason to continue to run laps behind there. If they can get the co-driver in, let him go out, run a few laps in clean traffic, and hopefully have a good lap time, and then jump that change racing car.
Already Jonathan Cicotto in the car. Trent Hinman is out, just chilling out for a moment. A driver helper helping the new guy going in. And the only thing that's going on here is the checking of the Pirelli tyres. What's going on there, Brian?
Well, right now they're bleeding the tire pressures down. So what they'll do is, obviously, I think these conditions are different. It's warmer, the tire temperatures and pressures will be high. They'll bleed the pressures back down for the next driver, maybe doing a balance adjustment if necessary. Like, I would suspect that the Wayne Taylor guys probably have just bled down to optimal pressures, but I would assume that the change racing guys will make a balance change, maybe less rear tire pressure, because they're struggling with the rear at the moment. It gives them an opportunity to tune the car in the middle of the race. Time
is up on the stopwatch, and out goes Jonathan Cicotto. Also having stopped the 88 of Paris Mullins, Mark Proto will take over that number 88 Luna-sponsored car. Just tightening or just checking the centre locks nuts as well. No tyre changes, so that's not anything to worry about there. As in comes the remainder of the field. Our leader, Laura Spinelli, staying out at the moment, as is Madison Snow.
Just under 25 minutes remain in round 1 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and this race is heating up, isn't it, John?
I think it is. Corey Lewis now installed in the 29. So is that Corey there in the white car?
I believe it
so
is.
He has got out ahead of Chicotto. Now that's significant. The white car, as into the pit lane comes the number 10.
And it was
Randy
that traffic.
Celery?
For
Yes.
sure, it's that traffic
Absolutely.
that threw off the Prestige car. I mean, a couple seconds is all it takes, and you saw he got hung out in the keyhole, and it doesn't, you know, it just creates enough of a gap for them to be able to jump him in pit lane. That's why the timing of it is so important.
So Corey Lewis, another driver that you know very well. It's a bit unfair them leaving you on the sidelines here to come and sit with Jeremy.
I feel like it's selfish.
Spinelli got to come in shortly, starting to get close to the end of the pit lane interval, pit window interval. Just on a couple of laps to go now.
That's right. He's turning very consistent laps to the front of the field.
Here he comes. Yeah, spot on.
And that was a really good in-lap, actually. A nice, clean lap, no traffic. So I think, you know, with the gap he's established, you should see that car come back out in the lead, I believe.
So it's a 10-minute pit window, isn't it, Jeremy? So from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. So he's in with 3 minutes to spare. But the reason you don't go right to the end is just in case there's a problem or you have a little half spin, because there's no leeway on that. When the pit window is closed, it's closed, and that's your race done. Spinelli already out of the 71 Lamborghini. The Broad dealer group supporting the P1 Motorsports car, and JC Perez will be jumping into that car. Now, the key thing now is them getting this pit stop done, the belt's done up. Don't sit on your belt when you get in. Don't get one twisted, because you cannot drive with a twisted lap belt. I have tried it once. I didn't even last till the second. As soon as I had to brake for the first corner, I realised there was something wrong and immediately had to come back in to the pit lane. It's not a nice thing to happen. So Damien Oki will go through into the lead. He's pushing it right to the end of the pit lane window. The 71 is released. The teams do their own timing. That's not an official that's standing there. And it's from pit in to pit out, so you time the time that it takes you on the pit lane speed limiter, and then you add the seconds that it takes in the middle. And the 7 has spun, and that's Sheena Monk, who's gone to driver's right this time at turn 4. Back wheels are on the grass, and the Pirellis might have a little difficulty getting some grip there. She's watching the flag marshals, the corner workers on the far side of the track, to let them know. They will be letting her know when it's clear to go. I just think the V10 might have lost power there, and she might not be able to get it started. Now this could be really interesting. JC Perez out. Oki's got to get into the pit lane now in the 09 car, and he does. If there'd been a safety car there and he got caught out with the pit lane being closed, but what could happen here is if the safety car is called for, then he will get not a fully free pit stop, but half a free pit stop. So that might just fall for him here. Full course yellow, it's happened. The safety car's coming out, and Oki did get into the pit lane before it happened, so it's not going to affect him. There's only 47 seconds left on the window. Now this is a massive break. They still have to time their pit stop, but of course everyone else will be slowing down.
Or should be slowing down at least.
Yeah, well, if at the moment...
We've seen rules being bent already, haven't we?
Oh, yes. The safety car, 71, JC Perez, did get out in the lead according to the timing and scoring, and have been asked to slow down. And here they come back onto the lead lap. Well, this is going to be interesting, because the car in the pit lane is sitting, waiting to go, and there it goes now. Now, where will it rejoin? 20 minutes to go.
7th place, I reckon.
Now, is the red light is on at the end of the pit lane, right, or is that the pit closed light? No, that's the pit closed light. Brian spotted that straight away, so he does filter out. The pits were closed for coming in, not for going out. I reckon he'll be allowed to take that position. What a great bit of tactics, though, by the 71 team, P1 Motorsports, sending their first driver long. And Loris Spinelli, I think, got just enough to get JC Perez back out in the lead. That is confirmed. Corey Lewis will be second. Piscopo will be third. Jonathan Cicotto, that number 1 car, didn't get the best of that pit stop sequence because of the traffic that you were talking about earlier for Trent Hinman, and then when Jonathan came out.
Yeah, while we're under yellow, I think it's important you touched on the pit lane time and that it's done by the teams. And when you said that, it made me think how difficult that actually is. People think that it's a very easy thing just to get the timing correct, but it is actually a very stressful moment for everybody in the teams because, you know, a second under, and here the penalty is basically double the time in the penalty, correct? So
yeah, it used to be a much bigger penalty, and now it's really not that much of a penalty at all. I mean, if you're half a second too quick, you only lose a second, which is, you know, not exactly draconian.
No, not anymore. You're right, but I think it is one of those things where it is so easy to miss that.
It is.
And that's one of those things where the team needs to get credit for what they do, because it is a lot more difficult than what everyone thinks.
18 minutes to go, and Sheena Monk's number 7 LB Cup car from Wayne Taylor Racing, supported by the Paramus dealer group, is moving again with a little bit of help from our hard-working corner workers, to which each and every one of them we say thank you very much indeed for giving up your time so that we can enjoy motor racing whichever side of the fence we are on.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by TireRack.com, revolutionizing tire buying since 1979. And by Motor Trend On Demand. Visit MotorTrendOnDemand.com. Start your free trial today.
Safety car in the pit lane. Green flag in the air. 5.5 minutes to go, and we're racing, and immediately JC Perez is under pressure from Corey Lewis. Taylor Proto caught napping just a little bit down to turn 1, the 2 leaders. That's not the place to go, Corey, but he might be able to just pull the car to the left-hand side. He's cost himself second position here.
He's cost momentum, that's for sure. And Taylor Proto, I should say, is going to look around the outside into turn 2.
And this is going to allow JC Perez to get a bit of a lead, but he's outbraked himself, but he'll pull that back to the right-hand side. Not the worst thing to do there, as we saw from Madison Stone. Second and third are battling here. The white car on driver's left is Corey Lewis, and he's going to have to defend all the way down the hill. He gets to the apex, but he's costing himself momentum. Every time he turns the wheel, every time he moves the car, he costs himself a mile an hour or a half a mile an hour. He's so late on the brakes, though, down into 4. Lewis did a good job there. I thought he was toast there, Brian, when he went for the move at turn 1. It's taken him half a lap to re-establish himself in second place, but he has done that now.
Such a good job. I mean, your heart's beating fast in that situation. Corey knows that at this stage in the race, 5 minutes left, it's do or die. And he tried the position, cost him some time, and almost gave away the position, but he did a phenomenal job of keeping him behind him. I mean, it's just a really, really tough situation to be in.
And now he gets to have another crack at the leader. JC Perez just struggling with his braking points here a little bit, whilst he's waiting for the Pirellis to come back up to temperature and pressure. Comes across the start-finish line. 4 minutes and 8 seconds to go.
Now, Corey should look for the keyhole here. Turn 1 should not even be an option. Try and set it up, get a good run. Looks like he's done that now.
But now Perez has got to stay driver's right. If he opens the door on the inside, he's going to have 1, 2, possibly 3 Lambos going down it. He pulls across to the racing line. The nose dives for the tarmac. Round the outside by Taylor Proto in the blue Lamborghini. This is going to be side by side coming out of the keyhole. And look at the car behind, Brandon Godovic.
That's right. I was going to say, watch out for car number 46, Brandon Godovic, because he's right there now as the 2 second and third place cars go absolutely side by side. It's been a really good restart by JC Perez. Doesn't have anything like the experience of Corey Lewis in second place, as a former world champion in these cars. And Taylor Proto, this is just his second year of racing, but around the outside of Proto goes Brandon Godovic up into third place.
Move.
Oh, the lead, he's touched him. Corey's touched the left front to right rear, and that is a tap, and there's a puncture on the right rear.
Yep.
Oh, and that's going to get I'm afraid that's going to cause all kinds of problems, and it will, I think, get a penalty as well. And he braked and gets turned around at turn 9, and this is disaster for Perez, who'd done so well.
Brilliant.
And Corey Lewis has...
Very impressive, that was.
I'm afraid ruined that race with that little tap. Went for the inside at turn 6. And Lewis, I'm sure, will get
He had
penalty for that.
I mean, Corey Lewis had the pace.
Yes.
There was no need to do anything silly like that.
Particularly not there. Particularly not there. We'll leave Brian out of this conversation.
It's such a hard thing. I mean, right now, Corey's looking and seeing the pressure from behind.
Yeah.
Full course yellow, and this will end under full course yellow. The positions will be frozen, and the man I think who's going to win this is Brandon Godovic. We said watch out for him. He's made the bold move on Taylor Proto when they were coming through Madness and down into the S's. The door was open, but he's not there. He's not quite there. He's not even halfway up the side of the leader.
He tried to pinch you down. He got on the curbs. As soon as he came off the curbs, he's going to hit the car in front of him, which is exactly what happened. And
Perez trying to stay out the way, but the back of the car is all over the place. And then coming through, Brandon Godovic.
I think he got a help there also.
He was on the brakes, in fairness, coming over 9, but I'm not surprised because the car would have been moving around all over the place, and all he wants to do is stay out of the way. And he got a nudge into the wall, and I'm afraid the day is over early for the 71, and the P1 Motorsports Broworth car is in the wall on the exit of 9, and that's all she wrote.
I think we got to go back real quick, though, and talk about that move that Brandon did, because in all the excitement, it's so easy to miss that move, and he drove around the outside of turn 5, and it's just so impressive. That is a difficult move to make.
Yeah, and it was definitely a touch from Taylor Proto that turned around JC Perez just over the brow of turn 9. And the damage to the right rear clear to see on the 71 car, and it was the left rear that's gone into the wall. So that is it was the lightest of touches, Jeremy, but that's enough to puncture a tyre or break a wheel.
Yeah, well, it was fairly stout, I think, as he came off the curb and sort of cannoned into the side. I mean, he tried to get out of it, but it was a move that wasn't really on because yeah, the door was probably cracked open a little bit by Perez, but he stuffed it down the inside. We are going to finish under caution. But Brandon Godovic, he's had a pair of second-place finishes before in this championship. He has won the AM category in the World Championship in 2015, so quite a lot of experience in these cars for the former stock car racer. But he's here. He was going for that first win. He really wants that first win.
He set that up at turn 4, Brian, in the 46. The black and red Lamborghini. He set that up from turn 4 from a very long way back. He also managed to avoid JC Perez as well, and he checked up. He didn't hit the back of the car. He did a very good job there, and if he is promoted to the win, I think he deserves that just for that audacious maneuver at 4, 5 and 6.
I have to say, I think Jeremy's going to disagree with me on this one, and that's okay. But I think race control may have a hard time issuing a penalty for the move there. While it's clear that there was contact, I think that
it wasn't deliberate.
It wasn't deliberate.
Right. You're absolutely right.
And that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be something. But I do think that Corey did everything he could to get over the curb. And I think, you know, okay, could Perez have given him a little bit more room? Possibly, but it's terrible regardless of how you look at it.
I completely agree. I wouldn't expect to see a penalty there.
Really?
No, not really. It wasn't. It was nothing deliberate. It was, as Brian says, the door was definitely open. But with somebody of his experience, I think it was a sort of mistake the driver with that experience shouldn't make.
Checkered flag then under full course yellow, and round 1, race 1 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo for 2018 is complete. Corey Lewis crosses the line in the 29 Lamborghini of Charlotte Huracan, which was started by Madison Snow. Great run by those guys. Madison Snow doing a fantastic job to hold off Trent Hinman early on and hold on to what was then second position. They've converted it into the victory as they go across the line. Second place, Brandon Godovic took over the 46 car from Shinji Mishimi, who did a very good first sector of the session of the race. But Brandon, very racy indeed. Good pit stop for that team as well, which bumped them up the order, and they will come through in second overall and in pro. And what about third, the 5-0 car? That was Eduardo Piscopo, who kept the US Racetronics Beverly Hills Lamborghini in in the hunt all the way through, and Taylor Proto right there at the end will take the third step of the podium. In Pro-Am, it's the 47 ppm Palm Beach Lamborghini who will come home and take the victory.
Yeah, that's Patrick Liddy who drove that second stint of the car, taken over from Dylan Murcott. So he will take the Pro-Am victory with that problem, with the incident there for JC Perez on the final lap. And it was a good effort there by Patrick Liddy, his first ever start in this series. And he was a very late entry, but he's done a good job all weekend long, and he's going to come away with a Pro-Am win.
Checker flag might be out. Congratulations to all our winners, but don't go anywhere just yet. We still want to hear from them. Well, if the rest of the season is anything like what today's race was, we are in for a good one. Congrats go out to Corey Lewis, Madison Snow, and the whole Change Racing crew. They are going to be hard to beat this year. Second was Shinny Machini and Brandon Godovic with a stellar performance from Brandon, a guy who was rated AM not long ago, going for the overall win. Dylan Murcott and Patrick Liddy won the Pro-Am class. Canadian Damon Oakey takes the AM honors, and Mark Proto and Paris Mullins claim the LB Cup victory. 5 cars did not finish the race, but the weekend isn't over for them just yet. They still have another opportunity for a trophy. Race 2 began in similar conditions to Race 1, but this time Stephen McAleer in the number 10 was on pole. Race 1 winner Patrick Liddy in the 47 had a bit of a rocky start, went for a spin in the PPM machine, managed to get it back on track and going again. It must have been something for the PPM cars though, as Martin Barkey in the 67 did almost the same thing. Both were able to resume with no problem. It was still another good battle at the front of the field between that number 71 and the 29. A bit further back, though, in the AM category, Ryan Hardwick was victorious in his number 2 blue and black machine. But the overall win once again went to the combination of Corey Lewis and Madison Snow in that Change Racing number 29. How did the points look? Well, it was a perfect start for the 29 duo, who now have a 6-point advantage over the 46 shared by Godovic and Machini in the Pro category. For the Pro-Am runners, it looks a little bit different. Dylan Murcott and Patrick Liddy only 1 point ahead of JC Perez and Loris Spinelli. It is the 10 that's a bit further back down in points. In AM, Damon Oakey leads Ryan Hardwick by 4 points, who's only 4 points ahead of a 3-way tie for Holdrick, Barkey, and Venus. But now it's time to hear from our overall winners, Corey Lewis and Madison Snow. Justin?
Obviously, you had a solid start, and there was a really good few opening laps.
Yeah, the biggest thing was just making sure I kept my nose clean on the start. It was close to the first couple of corners, but I knew one of the cars had a little bit of trouble up ahead of us, so just kind of smooth sailing, get some good laps in, hand off to Madison. I'm just, he drove a heck of a stint. I'm just so proud of Lamborghini Charlotte and Change Racing, all these guys. It's just, it's great to be back and keep our winning ways here at Madison.
Winning ways, you two, if any teams are out there, they really should hire these two as a combination. It is nothing like winning, and of course, no one has been at Mid-Ohio for a long time. So you've won one of the biggest races of the weekend. How does that feel?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, it gives us a great, energy going into the GTD IMSA race coming up next. But, I mean, doing this with Corey, we just got the 12 hours of Sebring done not too long ago, so now doing it, driving again with him is pretty special.
Well, certainly a changing of the guard here in the world of sports car racing. 2 young, dynamic racing drivers who are clearing up this year, both in the IMSA series as well as in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. 2 wins in 1 weekend. Stay tuned, because coming up soon, 2 more dynamic races from this very unique series at the famous Watkins Glen International Racetrack. I'm Justin Bell, and this is Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America.
Thanks, Justin. Well, this weekend certainly has given us a lot to think about until we do get the next green flag in the Finger Lakes region of New York. And it's left a lot of drivers who didn't step up to the top step of the podium feeling like there was a bit of opportunity missed. The fans, though, got exactly what they desired, and there's still more to come as the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America has 8 more races in the U.S. and 2 in Italy in 2018. For Jeremy Shaw, Brian Sellers, Justin Bell, and John Hindhoff, and our entire crew, I'm Shay Adam. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports.